Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being here with me today. I so appreciate you. I'm so grateful for every moment that we get to be together, that we can come together and live and thrive as entrepreneurs, as people, as the person who is running more than anything the business of your life, who's making the difference in this world that only you can make. And I'm so grateful to have this time with you, that we can talk about how to live and love and thrive. Today we want to talk about going outside of the box and growing. When we go outside of the box is often where the growth really exists. There's so many things that are supposed to be done this way, and what I'm hearing more and more all the time is about how somebody took and kind of threw away the box and then really began to thrive, really began to grow because of the fact that they looked at, how can I do it differently, and even more so, more effectively? What are the things that people need to know? So especially when you're talking about your small business, there are a lot of things that maybe a Fortune 500 company does do that you, A, can't afford to do, and B, really, they wouldn't really work for you anyway. In fact, what you'd find if you work in some of those corporate places is that often those corporate crazinesses, they don't really work there either. There can be a lot of times a lot of waste because of all of the things that are inside of that box that we want to throw away today. We want to go outside the box and grow. We want to live and breathe and expand, to think of things on the terms of what works best for us and for the people that we're meant to serve, rather than just simply looking inside of how it's supposed to be done, to look outside of that, to be inspired, to find our way, whether that be using some tips and tricks that we get from other people, or we discover a whole new thing based on the experience that we've had, so that we can live and thrive and make this world a better place. I want that for you. I'm so excited about what's going to come out of even just today's episode, as we meet with a couple of wonderful entrepreneurs and they share some tips with us about how we can go outside the box and grow. Let's jump into it. Join me in welcoming Clay Mosley. Hey, Clay, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So let me give you the kind of the short story. Is I have quite a bit of a past. So I'm kind of, the short answer is I'm a marketer. The a little bit longer answer is I spent 10 years after graduating from college, getting fired from almost every job that I had. I think it was like a total of 8 jobs in 10 years. And I figured out that I was not a very good employee. So I went out on my own, started a marketing agency in 2015. I grew that agency from 2015 to 2019 to we were doing over $1 million annual recurring revenue. I sold it 2019, and ever since then I founded a company called Dripify, which now I'm just a marketing consulting company, where I almost act as like a CMO for small businesses, a chief marketing officer, if you will. So yeah, that's my almost 40-year story in a nutshell there.
So yeah, that's cool. Tell us a little bit about the system that you use and how you set yourself apart from all the marketing companies that are out there.
Yeah, this is a good question. So my sole focus ever since I sold my agency, I figured out that this was not the best thing for small business owners. And so what I mean by small business owners, I mean businesses who do business locally, which is the majority of America. And I figured out that like the agency model is just it's messed up in my opinion. So like what I mean by that is that agencies typically focus on like one, two, three different services. So it could be like a website, or it could be SEO, or it could be ad campaigns, right? That those are the three typical things. And I figured out one that small businesses have a tough time funding an agency to do those things, because it's usually in the thousands of dollars per month. Two, those three things, three services, sometimes like I'll just say 3 to 5 services. That's like 3 to 5 things that out of like 100 that actually need to be done. And so that's where I was like, okay, as soon as I sold my agency, I said, okay, my sole focus is to help small business owners create an internal marketing system that they can drive. They just need a little bit of help and guidance to build that out. And that's what I do. And so like this is why agencies hate me now. So like I am pretty much like against agency model. So that's what I do. It's like, I help build out an entire marketing system that I would say is like 80-90% works on its own once it's all built out.
So are there any magic bullets? Are there any things right now as we're currently talking that are like, man, if you could just do this one thing, it would make night and day difference in what you're doing in marketing?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the worst answer in the world, and I'm gonna say, yeah, it depends. So I hate that answer. I hate it when people give me that, but it really does. It's like, but if I had to sum it up, so every single time I do, I look at somebody's marketing systems, what they've done, what they haven't done, and things like that. I look at it from, you know, the entire client journey. So I look at like how do they generate brand awareness, like to people who have no clue that they exist, and then also how do they close them as new clients, and then how do they take those clients and turn them into raving fans who refer business to them. And I look to see everything in between and see what the gaps are. So if I had to, like, going back to your question, the one thing that people can do if they can do this is look at their marketing system from beginning to end, from prospect to new client to raving fan, and figure out where people are actually falling off and fix those gaps. That's like, as soon as you can fix those gaps, like you will see immediate return. It's crazy how many gaps are missing in people's marketing systems.
When you're dealing with a client, all too often, I bet you've heard this before. I wish I would have met you sooner.
Yeah.
What are some of the kind of things that you find yourself saying to them all the time that they're like, oh gosh, I wish I would have only known that sooner?
Yeah, it's I do hear that all the time. And which is why I go on shows like this so people can hear about me. I would say like probably the biggest thing that they say that about is it's just simple things. It's just very simple things that they're not doing. And it's like I say, hey, are you doing, like, so for example, today I had a conversation with someone today, and I said, hey, how big's your email list? They said, oh, it's about 5,000 people. I said, okay, when's the last time that you emailed them? Oh, it's, I don't know, maybe like a year ago. I'm like, there's 5,000 people right there that you can constantly nurture over the past year that you haven't touched at all. Like, just start sending emails. And like that was like, and then what I did, I said, look, we're gonna have to, like, you haven't sent them an email in a year. We're gonna have to warm them up. You can't just go in and start blazing with a whole bunch of emails. You're gonna turn a bunch of people off. And so I wrote them an email as far as like what they should write or what they should send. And I wrote it up short, simple. and they sent it out, and boom, they got like 12 new. So this is a chiropractor, 12 new patients right off the bat. Half of them were old patients that just needed to be reactivated, and the other half were brand new people. And so they said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I hadn't been emailing these people this whole time." And so that's a really good example, like something that actually happened this morning.
So, and you said your specialty really is kind of local businesses dealing with local people. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, more specifically service providers. So they provide a service to their local community. So chiropractors, dentists, financial planners, those types of pest control, the trades, that type of profession.
Do the what are the nuances when you're talking about local service companies in their local market versus a company that wants to have a across the country or international kind of outreach?
So what are the nuances?
Well, so like, are there things that are
The difference?
different? Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. I mean, and you also have to take into account too that like there are some small business owners who provide a service locally who expand into several locations, and then all of a sudden now they're regional. And then they can go even beyond that. So I've worked with both both types where companies that I would categorize like the people that I work with in three categories. I'll put a fourth category in there, but like the first one is a single location service provider who provides, I'm in Austin, Texas, so like I'll just use that as an example, who provides a service here in Austin. And then there's a second category of like, okay, it's somebody who started that way, but now they have several locations and then they're regional. But each location provides a service locally. And then there's a third category where they may not provide a service locally, or they do, but it's on a national level. So like basically anybody in the country could use them. And a real simple example is like is someone like Amazon, right? Like they don't have retail locations, but anybody in the country can use them, right? So and then there's the fourth category of like just brand, right? Just brand, just a big brand recognition, like someone like Nike or Coca-Cola, who they're just everywhere. Amazon is like that, but I would say Amazon's different because they're direct to consumer, whereas someone like Nike, I would say most of their stuff is wholesale. So to your question, like what are the differences? It really the local business owner and the companies that have locations in several where they have places in several locations, different cities, that's essentially the same, except it's just multiplied. And so like if somebody has a pest control company here in Austin, single location, but then there's another company that has also a pest control company who has locations in Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, right? So like each one of those has their own marketing strategy because the markets are different. And then you compare like Amazon and Nike, those big national brands. That's a much different play. That's more of a brand play, in my opinion, where it's more of a blanket versus geo targeting. So those are like 30,000-foot view. Those are the differences.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. So you were talking about the email that you wrote for this person, just kind of hopping back to what you said with that. And I know a lot of people, there's so many people that have advice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How often is not enough and how often is too often to email your list?
This is a good question. This is a super highly debatable question. My opinion is I think you need to do it twice a week. That's my recommendation. I think I think weekly is the absolute uh, I like that's the absolute like minimum amount, I would say. I wouldn't go I would at least go minimum weekly, but I would go twice a week. And the reason why that is because I used to say just once a week, but we've gotten to the point where like media has evolved into what it is today. So like if you compare 20 years ago, social media didn't even exist. Because like Facebook was like what around 2005, 2006. And then the other ones came after that. And so 20 years ago it was all about search. It was traditional media like billboards, magazines, TV, radio, that kind of stuff. So like the need to grab somebody's attention, also the difficulty to grab someone's attention, was not as high as it is today. So, which means you need to do two different things today. One is you need to be a hell of a lot more creative and grab their attention, and two, more frequent. So the volume, so both quality of creative and the volume. So that's why I'm like, you need to go twice a week versus once a week. I think if you go more than twice a week, you're going to start annoying some people. I know some people, some marketers that say do it daily. I'm not a big fan of that. I think twice a week is a perfect balance of hitting them pretty frequently without setting off the annoyance alarm.
So when they're writing those emails, are they pretty much just letting people know what's going on in your business, or are we going more towards a sales letter? Is it, hey, I just want to be not your friend, but an acquaintance of yours
Yeah.
and connected with you, or is it more salesy? Which is really best?
I actually think you got to go more towards a I would, if I had to put it in a category, I would put it as a friend who you respect, right? So not just a friend who's just a friend. I got plenty of friends who I'm like, I I don't want their life at all. You know what I mean? But they're really good friends. But I got friends of mine who I'm like, man, I respect that person so much. That's who you want to be to your audience. So, um, if I had to break it down in a tactful way, so 2 emails a week, which is 8 emails a month. I would say six of those emails need to be value driven emails. That's it. Just nothing but value, no sales, copy, or content at the end. No, nothing like that. Just straight up value. 2 of the emails need to be salesy. So a call to action to actually buy your thing, right? And then I would actually throw in one more, and really this depends on the business. I would just do one additional email per month. That's more of a traditional e-newsletter style. That's like different, broken up in different sections of like, hey, here's what's going on in the industry here. Here's some things that you need to know about. It's just highlights. Perfect example of this is like The Hustle. The Hustle has a really good e-newsletter. So yeah, that's the way I would break it down, and then do just rinse and repeat that every single month.
Perfect. Well, I know there's some people that are going to want to go deeper with you on this. For people who are interested, what kind of people do you like to work with?
I love to work with service providers, specifically in the health industry. So they may be chiropractors, dentists, doctors, surgeons, nutritionists, therapists, anything like that. But that's my favorite segment. But if you provide a service of any sort, like it's all the same in my opinion, as far as like how you market yourself. It's just you just have a different product. The It might be more clear of like who I don't work with is anyone who sells a physical product. So retail stores, or e-commerce stores, I don't work with them.
Perfect. All right. And give us the URL for us to get a hold of you again.
Yeah, so if you want to know more, it's I actually point people to I have a Facebook group community. It's free. Um where I give tons of tactics that you can immediately use yourself. So like me and my team, we run through a lot of marketing experiments, and we test them out. And if they work, we share them and we share our results. But if you want to be part of that group, just go to getdripify.com/group. So it's GETDRIPIFY.com/group. And then you'll find your way through there.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Clay, so much for being here on the show with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I love it when a person says, and now the traditional organization that I used to work in, they really hate me because I'm doing things differently than the way that it's supposed to be done. I love that phrase because it's when we go outside of that box and find a new way and a better way to do it that we really truly grow in a way that sometimes inside of that box we were never going to get to. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we will be right back here on Thriving Entrepreneur.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we take a look at going outside of the box and growing. What's going to happen in your life when you go outside of the box? You begin to do things the way that you know they should be, and you begin to grow. Let's join in with our next guest and see what other things we can learn. Join me in welcoming Connor Boyack. Hey, Connor, how you doing today?
I am really well. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So I grew up in San Diego. I live in Utah now, and I am what I like to call a full-time freedom fighter. I believe passionately about individual freedom, people's right to be able to kind of do whatever they want as long as they're acting peacefully, not having red tape and regulations and roadblocks in their way. I think society is better when people are free and when their kind of unique ability and genius is unleashed and not suppressed. And so I run a nonprofit called Libertas Institute. Fundamentally, we exist to kind of change laws and remove a lot of these roadblocks so that people have more freedom. And then I'm also the author of a whole bunch of books, including a children's series called The Tuttle Twins, which teaches young people about entrepreneurship and money and freedom and personal responsibility. And so we've sold millions of copies and really just trying to help the rising generation learn these powerful ideas that often aren't being taught in schools anymore. And so that's kind of a big part of what we do now.
The series sounds like a lot of fun. So, you mentioned things that aren't being taught in school, and stuff has changed so much just over the course of the last couple of years. Are you finding parents and the kids open to this information that's just so completely opposite of what they often are getting told? Or are you running into some new resistance from what's in the books over the course of this last little bit?
I would say not only are we seeing that there's an openness, there's almost a hunger. I would say, especially after COVID or during and after COVID, we saw a lot of parents worried about what their kids were learning. They saw the state of the world and shutdowns and mandates and lost freedoms. And so they're struggling. How do I talk to my kids about this? How do I help them make sense of the world? And so our books, I mean, just really exploded in terms of sales and distribution. We sell thousands a day. I have a warehouse just full of 30 teenagers who just pack books all day long to ship them out. There's just such a demand right now. And so if I put my kind of thumb on things and try and assess why that is and what's happening, yeah, it's not just that there's an openness, it's that there's a hunger. The state of our world and inflation and everything going on is such that a lot of parents are trying to figure out how to give their kids a grounded foundation in understanding the way the world works, not the crazy stuff on the news and TikTok and from their teachers at school, but like what's actually going on, what is actually truth. People increasingly feel like, I think, from my vantage point, people increasingly feel like there was this game show on Netflix, I think it's still going on, called The Floor is Lava, right? And you can't touch the floor. You have to jump from one obstacle to another. So the floor is fluid and dangerous. And I think a lot of people feel like they no longer have this sure footing of what they're used to, the institutions they've long trusted, right? The schools and the media and so forth, and the government. They're now seeing that everything is fluid and chaotic, and they can't rely upon that foundation. It doesn't exist. They feel like they're jumping from one thing to the next. So where our books come in is they offer parents who are on the search for truth and for those foundational ideas of free society, the ideas that have bettered people throughout world history, right? Parents can finally say, okay, here's something we can trust. Here's something we can read as a family. We can have discussions around the dinner table. Yeah, the world is chaotic. Yeah, my kids are going to be subjected to all kinds of crazy out there. But here at home, we can talk about these ideas together. We can give my kids a foundational understanding, a lens through which they can look at the world. They can be skeptical about what they're told. They can be critical thinkers rather than just accepting things. And that's really where the Tuttle Twins comes in, is to be that crutch or that support for parents who are looking to provide that for their kids.
Love that so much. So did the book just kind of take off for you and develop a life of its own, or did you have something specific and strategic that you did to prime the pump to get it to now where you're selling thousands all the time?
Well, the Tuttle Twins started just as a single book that my partner and I, Elijah, who's our illustrator, we just wanted that book to exist for our kids. We had no grand vision of what it has become today. There was no master plan. It was just, we want our kids to learn these ideas too. So we made a book. A lot of people bought it and they said, well, when's the next one coming out? And so we did a second and a third. Now we have books for toddlers, for teenagers. We have curriculum. We have a game. We have a cartoon series that's out. We're building just this media empire to provide kids of any age, no matter how they like to learn, content that can help them learn how the world works. And so what started as just a project born of, my buddy and I saying, hey, we want this to exist for our own kids, has now blossomed into this thing that's, helping millions of kids around the world. It was very organic. It was, again, no master plan. It was just us figuring out, how can we create value? What stories can we share to help parents talk to their kids? What are kids curious about? What can we teach them about? And so it's been a spontaneous thing that's evolved as the world has changed. COVID went crazy, so we started producing content that was, responding to what was going on at the time, and really just trying to be dynamic rather than kind of concrete. We just want to say what's happening in the world and what are parents struggling with, and so what can we create in terms of books or stories or cartoons that can help parents better talk to their kids.
Love that. So, for somebody who's unaware, I thought of some other things, but unaware, can you give us a simple explanation of what personal freedom is and how it should look?
Yeah. So, the Declaration of Independence, the genius of the founding fathers in breaking away from Great Britain as they did, a lot of the ideas that were believed and expressed and debated at the time are what we now call classical liberalism. This is contrasted against what we might call neoliberalism or modern liberalism, which is more, compelling people to do things and taking from people, to redistribute wealth to others and big government programs. Classical liberalism was quite the opposite. It was very much this idea of you should have the right to do whatever you want as long as you do not harm anyone else. It's a very live and let live type of approach, or what we sometimes use the French term laissez-faire. It just means kind of a libertarian would be the modern equivalent of it. That personal freedom ultimately means that if you want to have chickens in your backyard, you should be able to, or if you want to paint your fence brown, go for it, right? Or if you want to have a lemonade stand on your driveway, you shouldn't need a permission slip from the government bureaucrats to do that, right? Obviously, if there are opportunities to actually harm people, that is when regulation may be appropriate. That's when laws may be appropriate. But if no one's being hurt, if there's no problems, rather than the government banning you from doing something or restricting you, you should have that fundamental free right to act as you please, as long as you're doing it safely and you're not harming anyone else. This was kind of the aspirational vision of many of the founding fathers. That's the kind of perspective that classical liberalism holds. We've obviously veered very far from that today. And it's something I think a lot of entrepreneurs bristle against, because they're trying to start businesses, they're trying to create solutions to society's problems, and they're often running into these regulatory hurdles and these barriers, and they have to get these permits, and it takes forever, and they have to pay all this money. And a lot of people who try to start a business ultimately fail, not because of the market response, right? Not because of customers, but because of government red tape. Here in Utah, where I now live, food truck owners, as happens across the country, here in Utah as well, they were struggling. Many went out of business because in every city they went to, they had to get permission slips, and they had to pay money, and they had to get inspections. And when you're operating on razor thin margins in the food industry, some of these food truck owners folded because they simply could not afford to pay for all of these permits. Through our think tank, Libertas Institute, we got the law passed here in Utah to create what's called food truck freedom, where now you just get one permit and you can operate anywhere in the state. And that's exactly where I say these ideas need to be defended, right? These freedoms need to be protected, because if we don't remove the red tape, if we don't remove the regulations, they can create actual harm for some of these entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, families, and so forth. And so we not only believe that these ideas are worth teaching, as we do in our children's books, the Tuttle Twins, but we actually think that we need to go build campaigns and go try and get the laws changed and actually put them into practice, so that these entrepreneurs can have the ability to go start their business and pursue their own American dream without all these kind of regulations getting in their way.
So for the person that's just dipping their toe into this, maybe they're frustrated and they don't know what to do, what would be a great way for like a good first step into expressing your own personal freedom for a person? How can they get started?
That's a great question. A lot of people might find this intimidating. The public square is a very intimidating place, boisterous opinions being, shouted back and forth. And I think a lot of the concern stems from ignorance. And so I think the first thing that people want to, do is start paying a little bit more attention to what's going on in the news, become more informed. Follow what's happening, read different outlets, don't subscribe just to one, right? Read different perspectives. You can go read international news. Sometimes they have much different perspective of the same events that can be very informative. So I think the first thing is just being informed. The second thing, easy way to start, I would say, is get connected with others. This could be something as simple as a book club, where you get together every few weeks with some friends in your community or church or business or whatever, and you say, hey, let's talk together. Let's talk through these things. It's going to give you more confidence in challenging ideas, expressing opinions, having kind of a safe, controlled environment in which you can kind of navigate some of these ideas. Out from that, you can grow into doing cottage meetings, invite the mayor, invite your local senator, invite political candidates, support a candidate, go to city council meetings, go to things can grow. but start by planting a small seed and do that in a very simple and safe way. I think book clubs, discussion groups are a fantastic and simple way to just get started, warm yourself up a little bit to what's going on in the world and talking about it with other people, and then just see what grows from there. Your path and your listeners' paths are all different than mine, so it's wrong of me to say do this or do that or here's the best recommended path. But I think the best way to start is by learning and discussing with others. So following the news, talking about it in something like a study group or a book group, and then just see where things evolve from there based on your own skill set and circumstances.
It's a really great piece of advice. So, and I know myself, and I know a lot of other people I've talked to found themselves early on in the lockdown of COVID, kind of glued to the TV screen. We were watching news, didn't matter whose news it was. It was just, got to know what's going to happen next kind of a feeling. How do you quickly develop the skill set of taking in information rather than being, indoctrinated?
That is the $1 million question. So, it's tough because ultimately a lot of the sources that we might call news, I think are more, infotainment. They're more propaganda mills. They're more interested in getting clicks and eyeballs for ad revenue than they are in truly informing us as individuals and empowering us with truth. So this is a very tough question. I think fundamentally we have to, before consuming news, be intentional about it. Don't just scroll Facebook or scroll Fox News or MSNBC or whatever. We have to start with a question. And that question could be something like, what do I hope to gain from this? Well, I want to spend 20 minutes reading up on the news, and I want to come away with something that I don't pretend to know everything about because I read an article. Instead, I want to come away with something I can do more research on. So maybe I'm going to read these 10 news articles. Okay, these things are happening around the world. Oh, this looks really interesting. Let's say it's, I don't know, Ukraine. So the conflict in Ukraine. Well, rather than pretending that by reading some reporter's, 8 paragraphs and suddenly you know what's going on, instead we might say, well, chances are this is biased, or it's incomplete, or it's intentionally misleading. So instead, let me use this article as a springboard to go research that particular topic. Let me go compile 5 or 6 resources, watch a YouTube video, find an independent journalist, maybe on Substack or something, where they're not part of a corporate media, right? They're more freelance and thus perhaps more truthful than the corporate media. Use your study time, use your news consumption not as a means of coming away and being informed, because you won't be. That superficial level of consuming media is not a way to become informed. I think it's a great way to springboard yourself into more research, to say, hey, I want to become more informed. I need to spend more time. I need to read more sources. I want to go deeper on this topic, and maybe then I can do a presentation at my study group or my book group, or we can find a book about this or whatever. But I think the wrong way to consume media is, you go to a party, people like spout these little blurbs that they read on a news article, or I scanned Twitter and I saw this headline and suddenly I pretend to know something about it. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think instead we need to recognize that we don't want our opinions to be shaped by journalists that we don't know, shouldn't trust, that have a poor track record of telling the truth. Instead, let's invest the time appropriately to going deeper and collecting multiple sources on topics that are of concern and interest to us. It does take time, right? You have to sacrifice perhaps other things and not just think that 15 minutes of scrolling and reading Drudge Report and these headlines is sufficient to become an informed people. So there is a sacrifice, there is an investment of time. But ultimately, if we want to engage in the public square, if we want to contribute something to the world, if we want to make a difference, or if, to your question, if we just don't want to be subjected to propaganda and be manipulated by other people, that investment of time is important. And we need to be intentional about it and recognize that there are people out there who do want to propagandize us. There are people there who do want to mislead us. Let's go into our study of the news with eyes wide open, so that as cautiously as possible, we can try and minimize their influence over us.
So, so somebody who wants to go deeper with you, how can they get in contact with you?
So I'm really easy to find online. If you're curious about our Tuttle Twins children's books, if you've got grandkids, nieces, nephews, kids, whatever, that's all at TuttleTwins.com, or we're all over social media at Tuttle Twins. And if you'd like to learn more about me, I've got a little info page up at ConnorBoyack.com.
Well, Connor, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you.
When they say that isn't the way that I was taught it, I love that phrase, because that means something genius is about to come out. Something outside of the box that's going to change this world is about to happen, when it starts from, but that's not the way it was supposed to be done. And then, that's the path, as far as I'm concerned, to living as a thriving entrepreneur. We'll be right back.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we go outside the box and grow. What are those things that just by simply doing them the way that you know it should be, but it's never been done, can be and do and grow and thrive in ways that people haven't even looked at yet, because of the fact that you began to think outside of the box. I want you to think about that as we listen to our last entrepreneur here and our last interview, and see what things outside of the box you could find in your own life today. Join me in welcoming Caleb O'Dowd. Hey, Caleb, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you doing?
I am good, thank you. So tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah, so I got into this game of internet marketing and sales funnel marketing about 18 years ago. I had the opportunity to move from Ireland, where I'm from, to live in Miami with one of the greatest legendary figures in the game of advertising and marketing. His name was Gary Halbert, and Gary actually got me into business at the young age of 21, and really had no business experience whatsoever. But under Gary's mentorship, my brother John and I, we launched a business that generated $1 million in its first year, and we went on to just start a whole bunch of new businesses thereafter. And over the last 18 years we have launched quite a number of businesses on the internet, and more specifically around the business model of sales funnels. And we have sold, all kinds of products, from information products to health supplements to coaching and consulting to agency services and more via various different sales funnels. And these days, what it is that we do is we essentially help sales funnel marketers optimize their sales funnels and generate sales at a profit on cold traffic in large volume.
So all of us want to have $1 million business. What is the secret?
The secret is you have to have, something that is worth $1 million worth of value, number one. And number two, you need to have a methodology of getting your product or service out into the internet. And you need to have, and that's a sales funnel. You pretty much need a sales funnel. A sales funnel is a vehicle that goes out and essentially communicates with a stranger, gets that person to become interested and excited and inspired by what it is that you have to offer, and then ultimately sells that person on the product or service that you have to offer, and returns you a profit on your advertising. That is essentially the sales funnel strategy for growing a business on the internet. You create a product or a service, you create a sales funnel to go out and advertise. The sales funnel turns your advertising dollar into a profit, and then you are able to do two things with that profit. Number one, you're able to, have a living and have a life and pay for your lifestyle. And number two, a portion of that profit gets rolled back into advertising, which allows you to grow and grow and grow and grow and still maintain that profitable business.
So, the internet's always changing. There was a time when you could pretty well start the top of your funnel off with Google ads, and then it was Facebook ads. And what is the thing that you're finding is really driving good traffic to the top of that funnel to be able to then have the people funnel down to ultimately, of course, being sales?
Yeah, when it comes to large traffic platforms such as Google and YouTube and Facebook, there really is no such thing as bad traffic. Obviously there is, not all of that traffic is created equal, but certainly when you're dealing with Facebook, Google, and YouTube, you're dealing with really, really high quality traffic. And, any one of those three platforms can potentially be a fabulous fit for you and your business and your sales funnel, marketing and advertising activities. It just really depends on who you're targeting. It's not about is one traffic source, at least in the discussion of Facebook, Google, and YouTube. It's not really a discussion of which one is better. It's more of a discussion of, which one has the type of prospect that you're looking for, which one allows you to reach the type of prospect that you're looking for your particular business. But all three of them are really great. All three of them we specialize in. All three of them we do significant volume in. And, really all three of them are fabulous traffic sources. It's never a case that Facebook was good and now it's not good anymore. Really, that's an illusion. That's kind of just has been repeatedly demonstrated time and time again to not be the case. The people that have been succeeding with Facebook or Google or YouTube for the longest time continue to succeed with that. It's more, when you have kind of maxed out one of those, that it makes sense to go and start diversifying in other traffic sources. But pretty much everyone, the whole world is on YouTube. The whole world uses Facebook and Google. So, it's not, if your business isn't working, it's not going to be because of one of those three traffic sources.
So, how much do you rely on the methodologies you create on paid traffic versus organic traffic?
I rely exclusively on paid traffic. I think that organic traffic, matters and it can be great. And, there are people that do really, really well with it. But organic traffic is very much a slow process. It's actually a lot of work. And it's inconsistent and it's not reliable for scale. So if you want to go from 1 sale a day to 100 sales a day, you're not going to do that with organic traffic very quickly or very easily. But, you can certainly do that, with cold traffic. You can do it quite quickly, provided you have all of the necessary systems and business model in place to do that. It's really just about spending more to get more sales. So I like the ability to control the growth of my company. I like the ability to control the revenue that we generate. And I like the efficiency of being able to just simply flip a switch and spend more money and acquire more customers. If I want to go from 1 sale a day to 100 sales a day with my YouTube channel, as an example, well, then that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I've got to go and record a tremendous amount of content. I've really got to work at that for an extended period of time. And even after doing that for an extended period of time, there's really no guarantees that I would get there. So I like more certainty. I like more control. I like the ability to, control the speed at which my business grows. And for those reasons, I pretty much almost exclusively use paid traffic sources.
What is the person looking at realistically that they should be putting in daily, weekly, monthly ad spend in order to be generating enough traffic that they are going to get the kind of results you're talking about?
It's never really about the quantity of traffic as much as it is about the quality of the business model that you have in place. So, if you want to go, and a very basic, very basic rudimentary understanding of this would be, if you have a business model where, your average order value is $20 versus a business model where your average order value is $20,000, then, it's the quantity of traffic that you're going to need to, generate a very substantial amount of money is going to be vastly different from one another. So it's really about the kind of business model, the structure, the strategy that you have in place, more so than the quantity of traffic. It's not really about the quantity of traffic as much as it is, about the monetization strategy that you have in place. What kind of a journey are you bringing your prospect on when they come in the door? That's really what it's all about. And I think that a lot of people who approach the sales funnel business model don't really understand that. They think that it's just about whipping a sales funnel together, getting it out the door, start driving traffic to it. But usually those types of sales funnel marketers ultimately kind of run aground. They don't really go very far for very long. It's the people that really build a strategy, that really have an understanding of the long-term plan of of the journey that they're going to be taking their prospect on. Those are the people that kind of succeed long-term and really kind of dominate their industry, dominate their niche, and just seem to crush it with cold traffic no matter what they do,
So would you recommend that somebody just dive in and do it themselves, or should they take a training class, or what's the best way to learn how to be able to do this so that you're doing it the right way?
Well, I always think that it's a smart idea to learn from people who have reached a very, very high level of skill and savvy and experience and expertise, because obviously that's going to shorten the length of time that it is going to take for you to be successful at it as well. I've been doing this for 18 years and still every single month I spend about $1,000 to $5,000 purchasing products from various different companies and reverse engineering everything that they do, so that I can make sure that I'm constantly at the cutting edge of what's working best and most profitably out there in the industry. So I'm constantly learning from people myself, even though I've been doing it for 18 years. And I think that anybody who, would attempt to go and, learn any skill in isolation without some sort of an education, without some sort of a mentor, be it an in-person mentor or a mentor through, books or something like that, is really not going to go very far. So, certainly, I would consider myself, I hope it doesn't sound too arrogant, but I would certainly consider myself and the Scalers newsletter that I offer to be one of the greatest resources out there for learning how to succeed with sales funnels. As I said, I've been reverse engineering sales funnels. I've been responsible for creating some of the most successful sales funnels, in the internet marketing niche specifically over the last 5 years. But I also spend, as I said, $1,000 to $5,000. I've been doing that for maybe 8 years, reverse engineering all of the top sales funnels that are out there in the industry and just kind of dissecting them and sharing all of the greatest tactics and strategies that, the top guys, the elite guys in the game are using these days. So, but really it's about studying your competitors. If you can find somebody in your industry who's using a sales funnel and is doing so very successfully, then these are the types of, people that you should be studying. These are the types of, funnels that you should be paying attention to. It's a case of, modeling success. And, the more you can model something that's successful, the higher your likelihood will be of, actually having a successful funnel or developing any sort of skill that is, that you're interested in, So I think you absolutely must learn from someone if you want to achieve whatever your goal might be in the fastest, easiest, surest way possible.
So first of all, what kind of people do you prefer to work with?
Yeah, so certainly, the type of people, so if anyone who wants to join the newsletter can join the newsletter, but certainly the type of people that we work with are usually people that have sales funnels. They are generating sales on a daily, weekly basis. They're looking to optimize their funnel. They're looking to increase their conversion rates, their average order value, their return on, ad spend, and really any business owner who's just looking to scale and grow. If, someone has an email list and a sales funnel and an offer that's converting, then we can pretty much, explode the growth of that company in a very short period of time with the systems, the tactics, the strategies, and the procedures that we use.
Perfect. I love that. So, give us some detailed information. How would a person get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you could go to scalers.pro, Scalers for scaling. So SCALERS.pro. It's a free video newsletter. And, if you're on the list, there's plenty of ways to reach out and contact me. So anyone who wants to learn from me or learn more about scaling sales funnels, or sales funnels in general, or marketing, direct response marketing, or advertising, can just go to scalers.pro and sign up for my free weekly video newsletter.
Well, Caleb, thank you so much for being here on the show with us today.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you for your time.
There is so much out there. Businesses that need to be started, sales that are just waiting to happen. And all it takes is for you to begin with this concept of going outside of the box and allowing growth to come in, to not be restrained by one way of doing things or the way that you've always been told it should be, but to simply look at what's the best way to get it done right here, right now, while it's called today. Never discount yourself, because by you thinking outside of the box, you will grow and you will come up with something amazing, because you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world does need you. And as you think outside of the box, as you go outside of that box, as you realize and discover that there really never ever was a box, that's when real growth happens. And more importantly, that's when change, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of the people that we were created to serve, that's when change really starts happening in their life. And I thank you for it. And I herald you as the thriving entrepreneur that you are every moment of every day. Thanks for being with me here today. I hope that until we're together again next time, you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.